infection prevention is probably the main part of my job at this point, aside from the management part. I hadn't really had a whole lot to do with infection prevention prior to this, although obviously as a nurse, infection prevention is part of your daily work life. This is just a little bit more in depth and a little bit more, I don't know what to say, difficult to navigate, learn, because things change all the time. So got to be on your toes with it, that's for sure. So the infection prevention role is everybody's responsibility in the building. I just oversee in my position, that includes even, educating visitors when they come in as far as, hand washing, infection prevention, illness, and all that stuff. So it is really everybody's responsibility. So to make infection prevention a priority across, the building with everybody, it takes a lot of interaction with staff. It takes a lot of education. It takes, me being out there with them, modeling things, helping them, answering questions. It just comes down to that, really, just being there and constantly educating. And when things change, making sure to get out there and see if those changes have occurred and explaining the why behind why we're doing stuff as far as infection prevention goes. I think that's people need to know, why am I doing this and why is it important? I explain the why for people because if you're told to do something and you don't tell somebody why, I don't feel that they buy into it or they don't feel it's important. And a lot of times, if you don't understand something, they just don't want to do it. Like, it must not be that important if they're just telling me and they're not telling me why I do it. Or a lot of times, if you don't understand something, it's kind of a scary thing. Like, I don't think I want to do this. It's just one of those. And I guess for me personally, I like to know the why behind things myself. So my management team, honestly, like we are a team. Everybody works together to help everybody out is what it comes down to. My other clinical coordinators, they supervise other halls. I give them information, they relay that to their staff so that, because sometimes I can't be everywhere all the time. So they really are there to support me in getting the education out there, monitoring the infection processes that are going on throughout their halls. Sharing the feedback as far as using PPE and, them, really doing what they're supposed to be doing. I do go out and I, speak with them in the hallway, catch them doing, what they're supposed to be doing. And in the moment saying, hey, that's awesome. We've definitely noticed that the PPE is being used more. Also, if we are seeing a decrease in infection and that kind of thing, we know they're doing it right. And I will go out and say, hey, you guys are doing good things here because, we've definitely seen a decrease in infections. I think it helps if you're praising somebody for doing a great job in front of others. It makes them proud of themselves that, hey, I got caught doing something right. You know what I mean? I think in that way, if I would pull someone into the office and say, hey, you're doing a great job, they're going to be like, all right. And I'm sure they like to hear that, but I think it means more when, you're kind of praising people in front of others or even praising a whole group together. One particular success story that I can talk about is the development of our enhanced barrier precautions throughout the facility. It's kind of been a work in progress over the past couple of years here. It does take a while. It is a slow process. The teamwork that we have is truly amazing. It does take all of us. It takes management. It takes CNAs. It takes nurses. It takes housekeeping, dietary, even into maintenance. It takes all of us working together to get this going. And so, the education, as I've kind of said before, education is huge and it has to be constant. And again, explaining the why behind why we're doing this, it does slowly sink in, and we have seen improvements, and we are just kind of hall by hall slowly creeping that in, and you just don't want to hit people with things hard and fast. And that goes for the residents too, like, having them understand, why are people coming in with gowns and gloves and all this other stuff? I don't have an infection, so explaining to them as well. So some advice I would give to a new IP coming on board anywhere in long-term care, I think first and foremost, asking questions, constantly asking the questions. And to do that, you need to know who your resources are. Who can you call? Who's the right person to call for this? And that was a big thing for me, just knowing. And there's a lot of people, you've got your state infection control, you've got your facilities resources, their cities resources. There's a lot of resources out there. um, I guess the second thing that I would say as far as advice goes, continually do your research. You have to continue to learn, um, and find out, what's coming up, what's new, keeping track of all of the infections. It's a lot of work, but if you stay on top of it, you can keep up, and hopefully that will help you be like, okay, we've got a lot of influenza in the county. We need to start beefing things up here, making really hitting hard with those, watching and helping people on the floor to make sure they're doing the proper hand hygiene and all that stuff. So the difference I see in infection prevention between a hospital and a nursing home environment for me is, the hospital it's a clinical place. People are sick. When you have someone that is put in precautions because of an MDRO, um, that they're in that room for that certain amount of days and they don't come out, kind of thing. Now in a nursing home, this is their home. We have to look at things differently. Quality of life is huge, just dignity in life. If we have someone that has an MDRO, if it's in a wound, it might be draining a little bit. They might, whatever it is, MRSA usually is what's in a wound. We look at, it's contained. They can come out to do that activity, or they can come out to eat their meals. It's just, it might be a little bit more limited, but we just don't want to put somebody in a room and leave them there and not really consider everything that's going on with them. We do really need to let them have that quality of life. So in our facility, if I am looking to find a champion, I typically will look out at our staff on the floor. They are right there doing it every day. My eyes are always open. I'm always watching. I will just have that conversation, elevate that person to let them know, you're amazing at what you do. Your hand hygiene, your infection practices are top notch. I could really use someone to help me out, on the floor, just to make sure that, everybody's kind of doing the infection control practices that we have in place. And just like I said, elevating that person so that they, feel proud of themselves and might want to go ahead and just take that challenge on.